Hola mis amigos, we're making a keto cinnamon swirl pound cake. Here in a large mixing bowl, we have 2 cups of almond flour, along with 1/4 of a cup of coconut flour, and then 1 full tablespoon of baking powder. And we are just going to get this all whisked together and combined. The dry ingredients have been set aside, so now we are set to work on the wet ingredients. So here I have 1/2 of a cup of melted butter. So that's going to be the entire stick of butter, which is a 4-ounce stick. And to that we are going to add 1/2 of a cup of allulose sweetener, or whatever your favorite sweetener is, but I love baking with allulose because it acts exactly as sugar. And next we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla bean paste, and you could just use vanilla extract if that's what you have on hand. And then we're going to add 1/4 of a cup of half and half. And I'm just going to get this started by whisking that together because we do have that melted butter in here. And we're going to be adding our eggs to this, so I don't want to cook the eggs. So I'm just getting that started to cool it off a bit. And now we are going to be using 5 whole eggs. So we're going to add those in and get this nice and whisked together until it's all creamy and evenly blended. Now that our wet ingredients are all nice and mixed, we are going to be adding this to our dry ingredients using a spatula, and then just making sure that it is all well combined. And remember, we're using that coconut flour, which is a sponge for liquid, so we just want to make sure that we get everything nice and absorbed in our flours, and we'll end up with a nice little cake batter here. It's going to be pretty thick, and that is normal. Alright, so we've got things down to the consistency that we're looking for. So as you can see, that is pretty thick, but that is exactly what we want. So now we're going to add half of this mixture into our 9 by 5 inch loaf pan. And as usual, I will be using my silicone loaf pan, and that is by our friends over at Booksiki Kitchen. I've made several recipes using their loaf pans, cake pans, and various pans that they have. Silicone is definitely my favorite thing to bake with, and I do have a few other loaf pan and cake recipes on the Cookin' Amigo channel and website for you guys to check out, and I will have a link in the description box below if you want to check these pans out. Trust me, they are great. I've been using them for several years and will continue to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and get this washed out, and then we're going to add half of our batter right into the pan. We're back with our clean 9 by 5 inch Booksiki silicone baking loaf pan, and we are going to add half of that batter directly into it. And again, it is pretty thick, so it could be alarming that it's looking like this, but that is absolutely normal. That's exactly what we are going for. And with half of our batter now in the pan, we are going to start introducing the cinnamon part of the recipe. So here I have another 1/2 cup of allulose sweetener, and we have 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, and we're just going to get that nice and mixed so that we can make a cinnamon sugar concoction. And then Once that is all combined, we're going to add or sprinkle half of this right over our batter before continuing to add the rest of the batter, and then we will top it off with the remaining half of our cinnamon sugar mixture. So now we're gonna start just sprinkling that right over. And again, we're using half. And then you guessed it, we are going to top this up with the remainder of our cake batter. And then we're going to go ahead and top this with the remainder of our cinnamon sugar concoction. And then to make the swirl, we are going to just simply take a butter knife and just kind of swirl down through the batter. And then once you've swirled it up, you'll end up with something like this. And as you can see, it does look like there's a little bit of a dry crumble on top from our cinnamon and sugar. And that's exactly what we want. That's going to give us a nice little bit of a crunch to the crust of our bread. So I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we are going to place this in that oven for about an hour. You want to check on it at about the 50-minute mark just to make sure that nothing is burning. And you may need to cover it with foil at some point if you're finding that it's getting a little too browned on the top. So just keep your eye on it. And since we are using a silicone baking dish, as you can see, it can be pretty flimsy on the bottom. So whenever I bake with these, I always use a pan, something like a pizza pan, and I am just going to sit that on the pan and place all of this into the oven so that everything cooks nice and evenly. So we will see you back here in about an hour. We are back. It has been 1 hour and we have our pound cake slash cinnamon bread, I'm not sure what I want to call this, on a cooling rack right now. And we want this to cool completely before we try to remove it from the pan. I did go ahead and cover it with some foil at the 30-minute mark of cooking because, as you can see, it did get a little brown on the top, so I wanted to make sure it did not burn, so I did go ahead and cover it, and it looks fantastic, and the entire kitchen smells like Cinnamon Toast Crunch right now. So can't wait to get into this. You could go ahead and whip up and icing if you want to top this with. All you need is a little bit of powdered sweetener along with some milk, and then you would just drizzle that over it. But I'm going to skip that today. I don't really enjoy icing very much, and this is going to be great with something like coffee or tea, as it is for me. But again, you can optionally go ahead and add that icing. So we're just going to let this sit and cool completely before we remove it. And I will see you then. We are back and our cake has cooled, so we are ready to go ahead and remove it from the pan. So I'm just going to take a cutting board and give it a flip. And that slid right out. And I forgot to mention before that you may have noticed that when I added everything here, I did not line it with parchment paper. I didn't spray it with any oil or anything of that nature. So that is the benefit, of course, with using silicone bakeware. I have yet to have anything stick in these things after having used them for several years. So highly recommend these. Again, I will leave a link in the description box below for you to check out the Boksiki bakeware. Definitely a staple in my kitchen. But I say all of that to say that if you are using a regular loaf pan, you must spray this with some cooking spray or line it with parchment paper so that your bread or your cake or whatever you're making in here does not stick. So at this point, we are good to cut right into this and enjoy, or if you decided to, again, you can optionally go ahead and ice this, and then you are ready to enjoy. So let's go ahead and cut right into this, because I know you guys aren't going to forgive me if I don't show you what it looks like on the inside. So we're just gonna slice this to whatever cut we prefer. And look at that, we have a nice little stream of cinnamon. Keto cinnamon swirl pound cake. Enjoy, and I'll see you at the dinner table.